Hello, grade 6 students. Hope everyone is doing okay. Let's get started for our second lesson on YouTube. Our lesson today is under the title of Figures of Speech, or what's known as the figurative language. What is meant by figures of speech? In language, there are certain expressions we use in order to describe things or mainly to compare things. Mostly we use these figures in order to make the ideas clearer, to enrich our texts, and to beautify our writing. So today we'll learn 3 types of figures of speech, some of which you are already familiar with. So let's start with the first type. In the first group, I have 2 sentences. The first sentence, Hadi is smart as a computer. The writer over here is comparing Hadi to a computer. Question number 1. Why does the writer compare Hadi to a computer? He compares Hadi to a computer because Hadi is a smart boy. He can answer lots of questions just like the computer does. When you type any question on the computer, it can simply or easily answer it. Or maybe because Hadi can easily solve and do lots of mathematical equations. So he's a smart boy. And that's why the writer says he is smart as a computer. Question number 2. What does the writer use to make this comparison? The writer uses the device as, which is in red, to compare Hadi to a computer. Perfect. Let's move to the second example. Her cheeks are red like a rose. The writer is comparing the girl's cheeks to a rose. Why does the writer compare the girl's cheeks to a rose? Because her cheeks are red. Maybe she's shy and her cheeks appear red, so that's why he compares them to a rose. What does the writer use to make this comparison? The writer uses the device like to compare the girl's cheeks to a rose. So here in the first group, I have comparisons between two unlike things. In the first sentence, the comparison between Hadi and the computer. In the second sentence, the comparison is between the cheeks of the girl and the rose. These comparisons are made using the devices as and like. So what do I call such comparisons? I call them similes. What is a simile? A simile is a direct comparison between two unlike things using either as or like. Example, Mario has a hard heart like a stone. The writer compares Mario's heart to a stone using the device like. Perfect, let's move to the second type. Here in this group, I have 2 sentences. The first sentence, he is a computer. The second sentence, her cheek is a red rose. Do these sentences look familiar? Yes, they do. We've read them in the previous slides. But there's something different over here, or actually there's something missing in these sentences. Let's find out. He is a computer. The writer is comparing the boy to a computer. What does the writer use to make this comparison? Is there any device of likeness in the sentence? Is there like or as in sentence number 1? No, there isn't. So, the comparison is made without the device of likeness. Let's check in the second example. Her cheek is a red rose. The writer is comparing the cheek of the girl to a red rose. Is the comparison over here used or made using a device of likeness? Is there like or as? No, there isn't. So again, the device of likeness is missing. So in this group, the comparisons are made between two unlike things, but the devices of likeness are missing. So these sentences show indirect comparison, which means without using as or like. What do I call the type of this figurative language? It's called metaphor. So metaphor is an indirect comparison, which means the writer compares two unlike things, but the writer doesn't use any device of likeness. Perfect. Let's move to the third type. The first sentence here, the printer ate my paper. The paper was most probably stuck inside the printer, so the writer expresses and says that the printer ate his paper. What do you notice? What looks like something weird in the sentence? The printer ate my paper. Does the printer eat, or do printers usually eat? No, they don't. They are objects, and objects usually don't eat. So, what has the writer done over here? The writer has borrowed an action usually done by a person, because a person usually eats. So, he has borrowed an action that a person does, and he has given it to an object, which is a non-human, an object or a thing, which is the printer over here. So again, the writer has borrowed an action from human and has given it to non-human. Let's read the second sentence. Coffee and donut wake me up. Is the same idea applied over here? Let's check. What's the action in this sentence? The action is wake up. Does coffee usually wake others up? Does it do the action of waking up? Or does a donut do the action of waking others up? No, of course not. Who usually wakes you up in the morning? Your mother. So who does the action of waking others up? A person. So the same here. The writer has borrowed the action of waking others up from a person and has given it to non-human, in this example, coffee and donut. So, giving human characteristics or actions or qualities or features to ideas, to animals, to objects, when I borrow them from a person and I give them to objects, animals, or ideas, this is called personification. So this is the third type. So to wrap up, our lesson is about similes, metaphors, and personifications. To recall, a simile is a direct comparison between two unlike things using a device of likeness, either like or as. A metaphor is an indirect comparison between two things, between brackets, the device of likeness is missing. Thirdly, personification, when the writer borrows an action or a characteristic from a person and gives it to non-human, to objects, to animals, to things, to ideas. It's time to practice. Read the following sentences and identify what type of figure of speech it is, whether it shows a simile, a metaphor, or a personification. Number 1. Last night, Sammy slept like a log. Let's think about it. The writer over here is comparing Sammy to a log. A log is a part of a tree, by the way. So, the writer uses this comparison or makes this comparison using the device like. So it is a direct comparison. So of course it is a simile, correct answer. Let's move to the second example. The clouds cried with me. Do clouds usually cry? No, they don't. Who usually cries? A person usually cries. So what has the writer done over here? The writer has borrowed the action of crying from a person and has given it to non-person or non-human, the clouds. So of course, this is a personification. 3. Jana is as blind as a bat without her glasses. The writer over here is comparing Jana to a bat. Does the writer use any device of likeness? Yes, he does. He uses as. So this is a direct comparison. So it is a simile. Finally, Ayman's brain is a computer. The writer is comparing Ayman's brain to a computer. How does the writer compare? Does he use any device of likeness? No, he doesn't. So it's indirect comparison. So definitely the answer over here is metaphor. You will be assigned to apply the uploaded worksheet. We're gonna send you the answers on Friday. Until then, stay safe.